You're listening to the New York Said Podcast.
Fear not, my friends. This will be my greatest performance.
Give it to me.
Here we go. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Hello, Sean Corcoran.
What's up, Sean? How you doing? This is Amon.
Hey, how are you? Good
I saw you gave me the serious voice. You was like, "Hello." I know that's how you got to answer the phone, but
yeah, no, it's not my personality.
not at all. It's good to hear from you, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm it's like it's the you got to show up finally. You've been working on it for so long. It's a good feeling.
It's a great feeling. Tell first of all, good to hear from you. I know it's been a minute, and congratulations on the new show, New York Now,
Thanks.
Home, a photography triennial. I got the information, but break down to me the show, and pardon my ignorance, but what is a triennial?
Sure. A triennial is kind of like, the Whitney biennial is every 2 years.
So this is every
A triennial, exactly. A triennial is an exhibition series that happens every 3 years.
Okay, excellent.
And in this case, this is the first of what will be an ongoing series of exhibitions every 3 years that is focused around lens-based media, photography and other lens-based media, be it
Film,
film, video. In this case, we have some installation. We have an installation or two. We have some printed
Beautiful.
media, zines, things like that. But all basically image-based. And what we're doing is picking a theme that we feel is particularly relevant to New Yorkers today, because we're looking. It's a contemporary show. It's work made, typically within the last 10 years, and it's a subject matter that we feel is obviously relevant to New Yorkers and New Yorkers' lives and concerns, but also to artists and photographers and trying to give them a platform to share their ideas and experiences.
So the show is called New York Now, Home. And I can relate to home because, I recently turned 45 and I love being home. Like, I'll go outside and I'll do what I got to do. And I'm like, okay, so how long is this thing going to take? All right, because I just want to get back home. And so the show was broken down into 4 sections, which I love because sometimes, I don't know, I like it when you can kind of, break down things into morsels. Not so much like spoon feed me like a baby, but like just to make it a lot easier to break it into quadrants. Can you break down the 4 sections that the show is broken down into?
Yeah, sure. Well, first I should say, we are when we chose the idea of home, we certainly were thinking about the 4 walls that you live within and the people that you live with in that very intimate setting. But we were also really intending to be much more expansive and to consider, chosen homes and communities and how communities make home and, how as New Yorkers with often small apartments, public spaces become our home.
Yep.
So
and even your body. I saw a body as one of the sections.
Yeah. So there are 4 sections. The first one, which is maybe the one you think of immediately when we say home is a haven.
Yep.
And it's the idea of home as a site of comfort and safety. But then in our selections and in our considerations, we also wanted to kind of challenge that notion and think about how, a home might not always be the easiest place to be, or particularly given the complexities of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
It was a place we could be safe, but it was also could be a place where we felt trapped and, forced to kind of isolate within. And in those cases, there's a couple different bodies of work that kind of examine that. Chantal Heisman and her son Lou Van Malik, who, the mother is a photographer. She's photographing her family in isolation at home. Her son is a 6-year-old boy, and he's kind of forced there in isolation. And when they get to go out on, car rides to maybe Coney Island or Orchard Beach or something like that, he takes the camera and starts, taking snapshots
wow.
of the trip. So it's a dialogue, a mother and son dialogue. And then there's somebody like Neil Kramer who, when the lockdown started, moved into his mother's Queens apartment to kind of keep an eye on her and help take care of the household. And at the same time, his ex-wife needed a place to stay. So the three of them are isolating together in Queens. And you can imagine he starts photographing their lives and experiences. And it's a bit, it can be comical, and at the same time it can be stressful.
Yep.
And you kind of see all these things playing out.
It sounds like the epitome of family in general.
Yeah. And then, so that's kind of, and then Home is a Haven, another photographer who's in Home is a Haven is Sarah Bennett, who was, historically a defense attorney, and who was helping women, in their court cases to be released from long-term prison sentences. And in the end, what she realized is that taking pictures of her clients humanizes them and gives them a different power than just kind of like talking about their situations. And in fact, then when her clients were successfully released, then she took their portraits in often their first homes outside of the incarcerated setting. And they're extremely powerful. They also include a written statement from her subjects, and they're really meaningful. The idea of having your own space in which you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, is, often taken for granted.
Absolutely.
So that's Home is a Haven. Another one is Home is Chosen. And home is, that's, creating family, your chosen family, creating the family beyond your kind of, your birth family. And in some cases that's, someone like Richard Rinaldi, who is photographing nightlife in the club scene in Manhattan, and it's the families that are made, out in public at night in these clubs.
Gotcha.
Or Layla Anne-Marie Stevens, who has created a series of photos depicting LGBTQ folks in their first homes, independent of their birth families. So you can kind of get the sense there. It's about not kind of moving beyond the traditional heterosexual or nuclear family that that kind of notion of the white picket fence.
The American
but
dream.
Also, yeah, exactly, that quote unquote American dream, and being and thinking about family in new ways and new ways of making home.
Or just current ways, like present day. This is where it is. Yeah.
Exactly. And then another section is called Home Crosses Borders. And, New York City is often called the melting pot. And, this is kind of a closer look at that idea and where we are today. And so we have documentary photography by Ziza Cruz Bacani and Cynthia Santos Briones, and an experimental film by Diana Guerra, who are documenting the lives of undocumented families as they try to find a place, find a new home, try to find safety and shelter in our city. So it's about, the idea of home and all of us striving to make the best possible home for ourselves and our loved ones.
And can you talk about the intense curation, the labor that went into sifting through
sure.
all these submissions?
Yeah, sure. Well, do you want me to talk about the last series, the last section first?
Body?
Or yeah, home is the body.
Yeah, go for it. Let's do that.
Okay, well, I'll do that quickly, and then
No.
I'm happy to talk. No,
you don't got to be quick. We got time. Go for it.
Okay, so home is the body is features artists like Cheryl Mukherjee and Nona Faustine, who use their own bodies to uncover intergenerational histories of their communities. So, for instance, Nona Faustine she's making self-portraits of herself. In the case of the work we have on display, she's taken a picture of herself at the former site of Seneca Village, an important site in the community for free Black Americans in the 19th century. And so in our photograph, she's having tea, in the middle of Central Park and reimagining what Seneca Village might have been like, and also reminding us that site was raised for the construction of Central Park, and they were disenfranchised and removed from their home as a result of that.
Yep.
And then Cheryl Mukherjee's photographs. Actually, it's an installation with a number of self-portrait photographs in the tradition.
I think one of them's from playing Eve from that series.
Oh yeah, and so what she is doing is she's playing off the concept of the Indian matrimonial photograph, which were photographs which were made for arranged marriages in India, and this is in this case she's here in the United States and portraying herself how she wants to be seen. And the pictures that she's making reflect her personality and her efforts to make her own home here in the United States, and a bit more reflective of her own personality and what she wants out of life and home, rather than trying to present herself in a pleasing way to attract a counterpart.
This is opening March 10th.
It opens to the public on March 10th. That's correct.
Because we just jump right in, and I want people to know that this exhibition is at the Museum of the City of New York, March 10th to the public.
Exactly, and there's so much to see in this exhibition, and I have to say, we've distilled this exhibition down to the work of 33 photographers, but in order to get there, we looked at nearly 1,000 different bodies of work. We had an open call to the public, inviting the public to submit work for consideration. We had an advisory committee that made nominations. We reached out to fellow, photography interested institutions around the city, including Aperture and the Bronx Documentary Center and Photoville and the Camera Club at Baxter Street, amongst many others.
So just out of curiosity, we can totally get technical, but out of I'm looking at thousands of images, probably hundreds of thousands. How do you discern what is relevant, what is good, what is bad? Does your eye become numb? Do you or is there times where you're just like, I wish I didn't see that picture? Does that ever happen when you're like, I can't get that out of my head? Because not so much of the composition, just the subject matter might just be a little intense.
Yeah, I mean, what we do is we look at lots of images and we see certain themes and concerns and issues that come up over again and again with artists and photographers, and we start to, and that makes us think these are issues that matter to people. These are subjects and ideas that people are exploring with their camera, and to a certain extent, you want to find ones that will work well together, but also, they have you have to find, you're looking for the best examples or the most engaging and interesting examples, because you can't have 5 people necessarily exploring the same thing. So, it slowly becomes a process of elimination, and making sure you're covering all the issues that you, not only that they're addressing, but issues you think that the exhibition, as a curator, you think the exhibition needs to address.
Okay.
So it becomes this kind of alchemy of like what interesting work you find that you were unprepared for, let's say, and blown away by and just needed to be included. And then there's other work that that address ideas that you just feel need to be covered in one form or another.
2023 makes 100 years.
Of the Museum of the City of New York. That's right. It's our centennial. Yeah. For 100 years, the museum has been New York's kind of storyteller. We pride ourselves on being a museum for the people of New York, to tell their stories, but also for people who are curious to know about the past, present, and to consider the future of the city a place where they can come, learn about the past, consider the future, and sometimes, through programs and other things that engage in kind of discussions on trying to find out what the future of the city can be.
So other than the current exhibition that we're promoting and talking about, New York Now, Home, what else can they experience while they're there and we're out of here?
Well, this is the first exhibition to kick off our centennial year. A little later this spring, there's an exhibition that will be opening called This is New York. And it's an exhibition that examines the last 100 years of New York City art and pop culture. So, that's a pretty expansive subject matter, and that exhibition will take over our entire third floor of the museum and cover many facets of aspects of life in New York over the last 100 years.
New York Now, Home, it was co-curated.
Yes. I was lucky enough to have a co-curator, Thea, Quiray, Tagle, as a co-curator who went through all these materials with me, and we were a sounding board for one another, and we were able to kind of maybe push our sensibilities and make our tastes and ideas a bit more elastic, to push each other in new directions. And she was a fantastic collaborator, and I think and in fact an ideal collaborator, somebody who made this exhibition ever much better than it would have ever been if I had tried to do this alone.
And so my question for you is, through this entire experience, what have you learned? Like, what do you think is your biggest takeaway now that you're on the other side of it and it's complete and it's ready for the public to see?
Well, I would say there are a couple things. I mean, we've spoken many times, and that photography is an area that I spend a lot of time looking at.
Absolutely.
And studying, and the way in which people have been photographing the city over the last almost 200 years that photography's been in existence. And I have to say that there've been a lot of discoveries for me in terms of the quality and subject matter people are tackling through their photography. And it just, in fact, in many ways, it's challenged me to go out into the world and look even more and see more work and meet more photographers to get that wider perspective of what is happening in the city and the ways in which photographers are exploring that, be it through, that historical traditional documentary photography to, more conceptual ideas and ways of making imagery that kind of can be thought-provoking and make you think about issues in new and exciting ways.
And that's all seen in New York Now, home, currently.
Exactly. Yeah. I think people will have their ideas broadened and expanded and
challenged.
Challenged. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Sean, as always, man, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time out to kick it with us.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Let's do it again sometime.
I think this is like our third time, so I think that makes us fam. I think you're like my first cousin now.
Yeah, you're part of my extended family at this point.
So it's all love, Sean. And
right,
I'll see you in a few. And again, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Peace.